Hello everyone. Today we're working on Module 2, Lesson 19. We're going to be dividing dividends that have 2 or 3 digits by multiples of 10, and we will be getting single-digit quotients as our answer. We'll start off with 70 divided by 30. And the first thing we're going to do is estimate what our answer will be, just as we've been practicing for the last few nights. So I'm going to look at my dividend first, and it's already rounded to the greatest place, and it's 30. So I know that my estimate is going to be divided by 30, and I have to find a compatible number or a multiple of 30 to use as my dividend. So I can count by 30s, 30, 60, 90. And 60, of course, is much closer to 70 than 90 is, so that's what I'll use. And 60 divided by 30 will equal 2. So my estimate is 2. When I get my quotient, it should be around 2. Now, for the next part, I'm going to actually set up the standard algorithm. 70 divided by 30. Now, the biggest problem that 5th graders have when they're setting this up is they get confused about which number is the dividend and which number is the divisor. And you'll notice that when you're using the standard algorithm, they switch places. The dividend is no longer the second number, it's the first number. And then you draw your little house and you put the dividend inside the house. I'm going to get rid of those arrows because they're going to be in my way. Now, I'm going to go over here and look at my estimate, which was 2. And I'm going to go ahead and put that up above here. And you want to make sure when you're dividing that you're keeping everything lined up. So that 2 is in the ones place, so I want to put it right above the ones place for the dividend. And of course, now the second step is to multiply my 2 here times my 30 here. And then I get 60, and I'm going to put that down below the 70 so I can subtract it from the 70. And 70 minus 60 is 10. Now, it's very important at this stage to say, can I get, and you need to look back at your divisor and think, can I get another group of 30 out of this 10? And the answer is no, I can't. So that means that this 10 is going to be a remainder. It's going to be left over for now. In a while, we're going to figure out what to do with that remainder. So this is one of the last times you're going to be allowed to use remainders. So enjoy it while you have this chance. So my answer is 2 remainder 10. Now it's very important, every time we solve a division problem, we're going to have to do a check to make sure that our answer is correct. So the first step in the check is to multiply our quotient by our divisor. So we're going to have an equation that says 30 times, whoops, left off my 0 there. 30 times 2 equals 60. That's the first step. And you will see that 60 right here. And then we have to add on the remainder. That's the second step in our check. If there is a remainder, there's not always a remainder. So that will be 60. I'll show you here. We're going to add this 10 on. So 60 plus 10, and that equals 70. And you can see right here we've kind of gone upside down over here. We've added this 10 to this 60, and then we should end up with our dividend right here. So I'm going to check and make sure that this is the same as the number inside the house, and it is. So I'm going to go check. Now, if it's hard for you to remember that part, there are a couple other ways that are more visual that you can check. So one way is to use a tape diagram, and we're going to have one tape diagram that is 70, and a 70 should be made out of two groups of 30, one, two groups of 30, and ideally they would be the same size. I'm sorry they weren't, plus another group of 10. And so then you can look at this and go 30 plus 30 plus 10 equals 70 up above. And you can see that you have, that it checks out. So if you feel like using a more visual check, you're welcome to do that. Another very visual way to check it is to use a number bond. And in that case, we would say, okay, 70 is 60 plus 10. And that 10 is our remainder, and this 60 is actually two groups of 30. So we're going to write that down below. And that corresponds to our algorithm, because we have here 2 times 30 for this 60, and then our remainder is 10. So that's right here. And that way we can just kind of account for the fact that we've used all the numbers in our check, and our answer should be the same. They're all related. Now it's your turn. You're going to find the quotient for 90 divided by 20. I'd like you to use the standard algorithm, and please make sure that you estimate your answer first. We've been practicing that a lot, so it should be fairly easy by this time. Estimate what your answer is going to be. Use that answer in your algorithm, and you are probably going to have a remainder. I can tell you're going to have a remainder because 90 is not a multiple of 20, so that means you will have a remainder. Then it's very important that you make a check, and you should do two separate equations, one multiplying your quotient times your dividend, and the second equation you should add on that remainder to the product of your first equation, and when you add the remainder on, then the answer to that second one, this should be the same as your dividend inside the house. So go ahead and do this and write your answer and your check. I want to see the equations for your check on the Edpuzzle quiz. Let's do another problem. This is just slightly more difficult, not much. 430 divided by 60. So the first thing I want to do is find my estimate, and I'm going to use 60 as my rounded divisor because it's already rounded to the greatest place. There's a 0 in the ones place. And then I have to figure out, what do I want to round that 430 to that is a multiple of 60? Well, if I count by 60s, I get 60, 120, 180, 240, 300, 360, and 420. And 420 is very close to 430. So that's the one I'm going to use. And of course, the basic fact here is, the basic fact here is 42 divided by 6, which is 7. And I know that it is 7 and not 70 because 7 times 6 is 42, and 7 times 6 tens will be 42 tens, which is 420. So now I'm going to move back over to the other side and set up my problem in the standard algorithm. 430 divided by 60. And it is important that I put that 7 in the ones place. It should be lined up with the ones place above my dividend. And 7 times 60, I already know what it is because I figured it out over here. It's 420. And I'm going to subtract that 420 from the 430 above, and I have 10 left over. And then I'm going to look over here at my divisor and say, okay, can I get another 60 out of my remainder here? And the answer is no. So that means that I have to write it down as a remainder. So my answer will be 7, remainder 10. Now I'm ready to do my check. So step 1 is to multiply the whole number in my quotient by my divisor. 7 times 60. And of course I could also multiply 60 by 7. It doesn't matter. The commutative property says it doesn't matter which order I do this. And I get 420, which is the same thing I had here. So I'm good so far. Then part 2 is to add on that remainder. So I take my product here, 420, and I add on my remainder of 10, and I get 430, which should be the same as my dividend inside the house, and yes, it is. And you can see that what I did was add 10 to 420, and I got 430 right here. So I kind of went backwards in my algorithm when I did my check. If you prefer to use a visual check, you can do that. And it's a little bit harder with something like this because you're going to have to divide have 7 equal parts of 60 in a tape diagram, plus another 10. But if you need to do that to help you see it, you can certainly do that. I can do it for you right here. 430, and that's going to be a pretty long tape diagram, as long as I can get it, and I need to have 7 smaller parts down here. Let's see if I can do this okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now this didn't come out very well. There's going to be 60 in each of these. 7 times 60 is 420, and then I have a remainder of 10 there for my last 430. So these two things should be equal. I did not do a very good job on my tape diagram because my 10 is bigger than my 60s, and that shouldn't be. So now you're going to try another one. 280 divided by 30. Remember to do your estimate first. Use your estimate to place your number in the correct place on the standard algorithm. Find the quotient, and it will have a remainder. I know it's going to have a remainder because 30 will not go into 280 evenly. And then you will have to show the 2 equations that you use for your check on the Edpuzzle quiz as well. And here's one more. 572 divided by 90. The numbers are a little larger, a little trickier. So I'd like you to do the same thing with this. Estimate. Use your estimate to place your the whole number in your quotient. You will have a remainder, and then you'll have to show your check on Edpuzzle as well. Good luck, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.